Hello, so in this video, I'll give a quick walkthrough of the third collab, which is TF image augmentation and classification. And yeah, let's go ahead. In the first cell, I am installing all, and yeah, so in this collab takes a lot of time to run. It took me more than 30 minutes. So I have ran all the cells and they have run successfully. All the code cells have run successfully, and I would just give a walkthrough of it now. And in the first cell, I installed Keras CV. I need the library because the later in the notebook I use that for image augmentation layers. TensorFlow is already available in the collab, so this is the extra package required for augmentation experimentation. In the next cell, I import all the required libraries. You can see like NumPy, Pandas for data handling, Matplot library for visualization, TensorFlow, and Keras for model building, and Keras CV for advanced augmentation layer. In the next cell, here, um, yeah, here I define the random seed and some global configuration values. Set the seeds help make the result reproducible. Since CIF AR10 images are 32 by 32 with three colored channels, the input shape is 32 by 32, 32, and 3. Then I would load and pre-process that. In this cell I load the CIFAR10 database, and then I process it by scaling the pixel values to range 0, 0, 1, and which makes training more stable. I reshape the labels properly and split the data into training, validation, and test sets, and this prepares the dataset for model training and evaluation. Here I define the class name CIFAR10, such as airplane, automobile, bird, cat, and all this we see. And then it displays some sample. We can see that it's frog, truck, and deer. And this helps verify that dataset is loaded correctly and give a quick idea of image classification task. Then in this cell, I create helper function to build the TensorFlow data set. These sets are shuffled, bashed, and prefetched for efficient training. Then I create the training, validation, and test data set. Next is our augmentation pipeline. This cell defines two augmentation pipeline. The first one is classical and second one is Keras CV. And the first one is for Keras augmentation. So pipeline here we are using random flip, rotation, zoom, and contrast. Second, here the goal is to compare different augmentation strategies and see how they affect model generalization. Next is this one. So in this cell, I build augmented training dataset. The augmentation is applied only to the training images, not the validation or test data, because validation and test sets should represent our real unseen data. I create one training set, data set with classical augmentation and the one with Keras CV. This allows a fair comparison. Next is showing original sample images. Here I select few samples and images for the training set and display them. This gives the original reference images before augmentation is applied. I use the same images in the next cell to visually compare them, how augmentation changes them, so we can see the respective images. Next, in this cell, I apply the classical Keras augmentation pipeline to the sample images. Then I display the transformed images, which usually confirms the augmentation is working and show the kind of variation. Next, here apply the Keras VS augmentation pipeline, the sample images. Then I display the augmented output. This allows the visual comparison between Keras CV augmentation based pipeline and the classical augmentation pipeline one. So we can see it's like more pixel, and yeah, this is shape horse and all. Yeah. In this cell, I define the convolutional neural network architecture. The model uses convolution layers to extract image features, batch normalization, to stabilize training, max pooling to reduce spatial dimensions, and dropout to reduce overfitting. At the end, I use a dense softmax output layer. Next is training helper function. This cell contains helper function for training and evaluation. The compile and train function, which we see here, compiles the train model, trains it, evaluates it on the test set. The summary and comparison functions are used to layer or to organize results from different experiments. So this cell is mainly for reusability and cleaner experiment tracking. Next, in this cell, I train the baseline CNN model without any image augmentation. This gives me reference points so I can later compare whether augmentation improves performance or reduce overfitting. In this classical augmentation experiment, I trained the same CNN architecture, but this time using the classical augmented training dataset. The idea is that augmentation exposes the model to more varied training examples, which can improve generalization and reduce the overfitting. We can see the two graphs, which is one for the classical augmentation loss, other for accuracy, and their respective table. Next is Keras-CV augmentation. In this cell, I train another CNN model using Keras-CV augmented training dataset. And similar to the previous, it allows me to compare the baseline classical augmentation model and Keras-CV. In the next cell, I collect the result from the three main experiments, which is baseline no augmentation, classical augmentation, and Keras-CV augmentation, and compare the final validation accuracy, test accuracy, and overfitting gap across the three approaches. This is the reference for it. Next is plot comparison chart. In this cell, I visualize the comparison result using bar chart. The first chart compares test accuracy across augmentation strategies. The second one compares the overfitting gap, and these two makes the effect of augmentation easier to interpret visually. In this cell, I do short versus long training experiment. I compare the same augmentation strategies under different training durations. I ran the experiment, one with shorter training and one with longer training. And this is the output for it with the 6 epochs and the 15 epochs one. Next is build the compact comparison summary. Here I build a compact summary table from short and longer training experiment. I specifically extract the test accuracy and overfitting GP model, which we can see here. Next is I'm going to plot short versus longer training. One graph compares test accuracy, then the other compares the overfitting gap. Next is callback based training setup. In this cell, I define several callbacks to improve the training. I define several callbacks and I use TensorBoard and then model checkpoint to save the best model, reduce LR on plateau to lower the learning rate when progress slows down, and early stopping to stop training when validation loss stops improving. Then I train the model with these callbacks using the augmentation. Next, I am going to launch the TensorBoard. This is launched inside the Tensor, and which helps the visually training and validation metrics over time. And it is used for monitoring model behavior during the training. If I uncheck, I cannot see the visual, and if I check it, I can see the visual, which I can run through step by step, which enables me to track the range very visually and specifically. Here also I can see one more. Yeah. Next is compact augmentation for hyperparameter search. In this cell, I run compact search over different augmentation strengths. I define the light, medium, and strong augmentation configurations by changing the rotation, zoom, and contrast. Then I have trained to evaluate model for each configuration to see which augmentation strength performs the best. Here I plot the test accuracy for the different augmentation strength. This helps to identify gives the best results. So this cell is essentially a small augmentation hyperparameter comparison. So in this cell, I use the best performing training model to make the prediction on test dataset. Then I display sample test images along with their true labels and predicted labels. And let's go to the final experiment summary. Here I collect the result from the final key experiment, including baseline, classical, Keras CV, and callback based augmented training. Then I combine them into one final summary table. Next is final chart bar. In this code cell, I plot the test accuracy of all the major experiments using horizontal bar chart. This gives a final quick comparison and makes it easy to identify which augmentation strategy performed best overall. I would say this whole process is similar to what we did in the previous collapse too, but here the emphasis is more on image augmentation and classification. And if I have to comprehend this whole notebook studies how image augmentation affects CNN based image classification on CIFA or 10. I compared baseline training, classical augmentation, Keras CV augmentation, callback based training, and different augmentation strength, and then summarized with setup generalized best. That's it. Thank you.